Okay, cool. I'm live on Facebook, I believe. I have this thing set up where I can go live on Facebook or YouTube from StreamYard. And okay, yeah, it's Facebook. All right, cool. Got a few people watching now. I'm actually going to be surprised if I can get over 100 watching tonight because, as you guys can probably tell, you either haven't been seeing my posts, or if you do see the posts, you see that the level of engagement is down like significantly over the last, I want to say, like 2 to 3 weeks. Facebook has done everything in their power to suppress the reach of this page. It's unbelievable. And you know what? I actually noticed that it's as my message started to shift away from just being basically a conservative Trump cheerleader 24/7 to zooming out and looking at what's really going on. Now, all of a sudden, I'm being suppressed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. And yeah, I just noticed that's when it happened. So correlation could equal causation. I don't know. Who do we got watching? Where are you guys watching from? I see Tulsa. I see Iowa, Arkansas, a couple Floridas. I see Minnesota in there. Okay. Where else are you guys watching from? I'll give you guys a few minutes to join. I'm going to hydrate. And then I'm going to get right into it because my heart is heavy. I'm really kind of I'm just in shock and disbelief at everything that has taken place this week, really this whole year. Like, we haven't been able to catch our breath. I hope you guys are enjoying 2020. Like, is like literally January 1st, we had some crazy, oh God, Soleimani, we're going to war with Iran. This is it. And then the China virus, and then Kobe Bryant, and all the just everything else has just snowballed. And now you've got this situation here. Who else? Utah, Houston, Texas, New Mexico, Illinois, San Antonio, Fort Worth. A lot of Texans in here. Chicago, Arizona, Louisiana, Philly. Appreciate all you guys watching. Okay, so let's get into it. Where do I begin here? Okay, so first and foremost, before I even talk about anything, I just want to say rest in peace to George Floyd. Okay, we just need to get that out of the way because so much of what has transpired over the last 2 days has been all about the response, the reaction, the protesting, the riots. Let's not even call it protesting, the riots. There are still protesters, but riots and looting and all that. And we've forgotten about the whole reason why this is happening. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Like, I'm not going to take my eye off the ball. I'm not going to lose sight of what we are all feeling this way about. Okay. Now, Minneapolis, as you guys, a lot of you know, those of you that watch me from Minnesota, I lived in Minneapolis for 5 years, which doesn't seem, it's not really a long time, but trust me when I say the most important years of my life came from when I was living in Minneapolis. Some of the greatest memories, just so many amazing things happened while I was there. I met some great people. I have great friends there. I discovered myself in the career sense. That's where I lived before I moved to Florida. And so to see areas that I used to hang out in, areas that I used to live in, up in smoke, destroyed, vandalized, is just, it's surreal to see it on TV. Like, I've literally ordered Uber Eats on the late night tip from Cup Foods before. Like, I've eaten at that restaurant. I've ordered takeout. I've just, a lot of the businesses that are destroyed, I'm familiar with, right? So to see the images of that, it just blew me away, right? And what I guess what bothers me right now is there still have not been any arrest made, I know there's a process. They got to go through footage as if there's not enough evidence already to arrest them. How is there not enough evidence to take them into custody? They should not be sleeping in their beds tonight. They shouldn't be able to look out of their window, drink some orange juice in the morning. They should not be able to experience any freedom right now. If it were anybody else in this situation, they would have been arrested on the spot. But no, because they're the police, they're part of the government, which I'll get to. They're part of a two-tier justice system. So yes, we have to let the process play out, but they haven't been arrested. And I think arrests being made would help a little bit, just a little bit. I don't know if it would calm down all the rioting and looting and all that stuff, but I think it would put at least my mind at ease. It put a lot of you guys' mind at ease if they would just arrest the freaking guy already. The mayor's calling for it, right? So it's just, nobody's talking about that. Like, I haven't heard anything. I've been looking and searching, and I didn't watch any of the press conference today because I've been at work. In fact, I don't need to watch an entire press conference. I just want to know, when is the arrest coming? Because this is murder, and we all agree that this is murder. This is murder. This is not anything where it's ambiguous and you just kind of pick sides like the Ahmaud Arbery thing. That was just, right? This is cut and dry murder. Murder. That's it. And we all agreed on that. And people were unified in that same belief that this was murder and that he should still be alive and that cop needs to be arrested. And then the riots happen. And now people are split. We're divided now. And not only that, it sparked a chain reaction because I'm starting to see protests erupting in other cities that eventually turn into riots at night. That's pretty much what it is. Protests during the day. Hold on. I think my face, there's beeping in my ear. Hold on. Okay. There's protests during the day when people come out after work or whatever. They got their signs. Their kids are there. It's peaceful. It's civil. And then that's when, nightfall happens after people go home. And then that's when the tear gas comes out. That's when the thugs come out. That's when the freaks come out. They say the freaks come out at night. Let's just call it what it is. Like, anybody that's using this as an opportunity to go get a new flat screen doesn't actually care about the situation. They're just opportunists. That's all they are. But the problem is, you turn on the fake news, the trash propaganda, Marxist media, you turn that on and they call it all the same thing. They say protesters clash with police. There's no such, protesters don't clash. Protesters peacefully assemble. Rioters clash. So as they're showing images and optics and video, B-roll of people looting, torching the freaking AutoZone last night, as they're showing that on Don Lemon's show, he's saying protesters, but those were rioters. So it gets lumped in together. And the people who watch that stuff, the very low IQ people who watch that, I'm not saying it because it's my opinion. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm saying it because it's true. The people that watch Don Lemon's show, not all, there's some smart people. I don't know why they're so brainwashed by it, but there's some very low IQ people that watch those shows like Don Lemon and other shows on CNN and other fake news. And they equate that in their mind to, okay, I'm angry, I'm outraged, so I'm justified in destroying businesses because that's what protesters do, because they've lumped it all in together. And when they do that, what that does is it causes a chain reaction. More people go out. Now you see it's happening in Denver tonight. I saw Denver. I saw Phoenix. Tell me where you guys are watching from around the country. If there's protests in your city, are they turning into riots? What's the local law enforcement saying? What's the mayor saying? Are they out ahead of it? Are people locking their businesses down? Because this could easily go nationwide, especially while we're waiting and waiting for an arrest. Just arrest the guy. He's already been fired. That's a mission of guilt right there. The FBI is investigating. The mayor said fire him. We have the evidence. There's camera footage, multiple angles showing that he was not resisting. There were 3 people on top of him. And obviously the audio of him saying he couldn't breathe and just everything about it says arrest the guy. So the longer it takes to arrest them, the more chances are going to increase that you're going to start to see this happen in Detroit. You could see it happen in LA. LA is known for riots. It's already kind of happening. It's already escalating because what's happening is people are just lumping it in with their general frustration with lockdowns, with all of the uncertainty, mask wearing, social distancing. America's weird right now, and that's putting it lightly. So I'm just really concerned that this is gonna explode nationwide if they don't get this under control. And what's so hard for me to say, like, they get this under control, I'm referring to the people in power, the government, right? We keep putting our faith in a government that constantly lets us down, right? I don't know about you guys, but there's a reason why I don't sport the thin blue line t-shirts and all. I can't do it, especially now. When I first moved to Florida, I'll admit I saw that flag for the first time. I'm like, what is that? That's interesting. I never saw an American flag like that. And then I looked it up and I'm like, oh, thin blue line. Okay. Police, law enforcement. Okay. I'm like, okay, I respect the rule of law, I guess. But I think what's happening now is those of you who are hardcore law enforcement, back the blue, the Punisher, stickers on your car and all that stuff, I think your beliefs are being challenged now. Because the reason why I say your beliefs are probably being challenged is because you back the blue, right? You support law enforcement. Yeah. But they're enforcing laws written by politicians that are tyrants. So at the end of the day, they're not on your side. And no, I'm not talking about individual police officers. Those are just citizens who join law enforcement. I'm talking about the entity, the bureaucracy, the enforcement arm of the legislative branch. They're the executive branch, obviously, but they enforce the opinions of politicians, which they call laws. So if you don't like those laws, you're going to have to deal with the police. So as you see the walls closing in on your business, on your freedom, this Trace Act, let's see what happens. Because the last time we had a huge disaster, what was it, 9/11, we got the Patriot Act and there was nothing patriotic about it. So what's going to come out of this on top of everything else going on with the riots and all this stuff? It's really hard, especially when you see situations like this. It's really hard. I'm imagining, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. How can you back the blue wholeheartedly and be for freedom? Because the blue is a part of the government. They're not mutually exclusive. They're not separate. It's all the same thing. And when we talk about what's the biggest threat to humanity, what is it, the coronavirus or is it the government? Think about governments, not just in the United States. Think about, obviously, China. Think about Stalin, Mao, all the governments, tyrants, dictators, people that govern your life, that have governed lives for decades. How many people have died because of bad leadership, bad governing, bad policing, military industrial complex? See, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is why I say 2020 is different. The paradigm is shifting. There's an awakening. People have had their realities completely shattered and they're trying to pick up the pieces because we've been living under a false sense of security and safety. We've been used to routines and we've all been broken out of those routines and everything's different. So I think that right now is just a pivotal moment. It's so pivotal. I don't know what direction it's going to go. I don't like the way it's trending, but I think that Someone, hold on. I should read some of these comments before I just keep going. I just think it's very interesting. We're almost essentially at a fork in the road. Like, it doesn't seem like we can get back on track, but I think we should at least try. We should at least try, because before this happened, before the situation in Minneapolis happened, states were opening back up, businesses were, starting to reopen, right? We were just starting to move beyond the coronavirus. Like, obviously, I think that's done. I think the social distancing, all that, at least in Minneapolis, it's done. It's done. But it seemed like we could start to get back on track. At least in Florida, they're talking about opening Disney and Universal. Someone said, Mike, do you want no law? No, I do. Here's my thing. I support law and order as it relates to protecting the rights and liberties of sovereign individuals. Once you go beyond that, then I have a problem, especially when you're talking about excessive force, especially when you're talking about laws that aren't written, executive orders, going around the Constitution. So no, I'm not. I feel like people sometimes they'll hear one thing or the other, like, what are you saying? You don't want any cops? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not bashing cops. You didn't even hear me bash cops. I'm just telling the truth that they're a part of the government. So if you don't like what the government's doing, you don't like the laws being put in place, you don't like the tyranny, well, when they say we're going to snatch you out of the ocean if you go swimming on Memorial Day, or we're going to come in your house, we're going to separate you from your kid if you're not wearing a mask, we're going to snatch you off a bus in Philadelphia, who's doing that? It's coming from up top. The directive is coming from up top, but who's enforcing that? Right? And it's like, you can back the blue, but where do you draw the line? At some point, you would have to draw the line, I imagine, right? Or you're just saying, I like the government, because that's what it is. That's what it is at the end of the day. And I'm just telling the truth. That's what it is. But I agree, like, without some form of like structure, police department, then yes, society would look like Minneapolis everywhere, every day, because there's always going to be criminal activity. There's people try to equate it to other things, like, oh, it's this poverty, it's all this stuff. That's why no, there are plenty of people who grow up in poverty and don't do that. So there's no excuse. It's literally just good and evil. It's either right or wrong. Is it right or wrong? Every decision you make has consequences. It's either right or wrong. But everywhere would look just like Minneapolis. You'd see a lot of that if you didn't have some form of law enforcement. I just think it's too powerful. Obviously, it's too powerful. Who can deny that the government has too much power? Who can say that they don't? Obviously, there's people who want them to have more. They're dealing with their own cognitive dissonance. The people who call themselves anarcho-communists. You can't make this stuff up. How can you be an anarcho-communist? That's what a lot of Antifa members say that they are. Makes sense why they're so confused and angry. But I think that the same can be said for conservatives. Not all, but the ones who are hardcore back the blue. I went to a rally, a Freedom Open Up Florida rally a couple weeks ago in Orlando. And there was a truck that showed up, and he had the American flag on one side and he had a thin blue line flag on the other side. And people were like, wait, what? We're over here basically protesting against this. So how can you support both? How? I just think you need to protect the rights and freedoms that we already have and nothing more. And of course, that includes protecting the old lady who can't defend herself, protecting children, right? If someone's breaking into your house, of course you want to be able to protect yourself, but it's nice to know that someone has your back. But how can people trust law enforcement when, number one, they're just people like us? They make mistakes. They get emotional. Not all of them are well trained. And then also, They're following directives and guidelines given to them by somebody else. They're part of the executive branch. Their job is to execute. That's it. They're basically supposed to do whatever they're told, regardless of what is right. And I have a problem with that, because you should do whatever's right, regardless of what you're told. If you are a cop and they said, hey, you need to go out and start kicking everyone you see in the shin, are you going to do it because you're a cop and that's what they told you to do? At some point, you have to draw some line at some point, because we're human. That's the way it is. But the whole point I was trying to make, and then I'll move on, was just the idea of law enforcement, not the individuals within it, but the idea of it, the structure of it. There needs to be reform of some sort, major reform. And it should probably start in the state of Minnesota. For as much as those riots piss me off, I hate that. I hate what I saw. I hate to see all those businesses destroyed. Mom and pop businesses, they destroyed a bunch of people's hard work because they're angry and because they're selfish. As much as I hate that, riots don't appear out of thin air. There was some underlying issue that led to that, along with all of the fanning the flames from the mayor and all the politicians cashing in, calling it racist and all that stuff. Of course, that fueled the fire. But like I said, I lived in Minnesota for 5 years. In the 5 years that I was there, there were more than a few police brutality, excessive use of force cases that went unresolved, or the officer got a slap on the wrist. There's just something wrong. There's something fundamentally flawed with the policing in that state. And it's just a fact. I mean, come on. So it boiled over. So the anger has been there. It's been there. And it's just getting worse, because even though, yeah, these cops are fired, cool, great, but that's not enough. And what's taken so long? Like, I don't know what the process is, obviously. Them reviewing tapes, witnesses, all that stuff, toxicology. I have no idea. But I'm just saying there probably needs to be an arrest much sooner than later. And actually, there need to be 4 arrests. I know some people are saying that in the comments. There needs to be 4 arrests, period. Now, let's zoom out, okay? Because here's the other thing. This is what I was thinking about when I thought about that video, the video of him gasping for air and the cop with his hand in his pocket and almost a blank stare on his face, just cold and callous, just like nothing. Treated him like he was a bug, just like nothing, just total disregard for his life. Of course, people are calling it racist. They're pointing to the optics of it. They're saying, well, it was racism because the guy was white and the guy on the ground was black, and he would have not done that to another white person. Nobody knows that. You don't know that. I'm not saying it's not racist, but you can't say that it is definitively, because there's plenty of police brutality to go around. It's just some is more lucrative than others, especially during an election year. So any chance they can get to show racial injustice against black people in 2020 or 2016, whenever, any chance they get to show that, that's what they're going to show. But the problem is the police brutality, period. The disregard for fundamental human rights, regardless of who it's against, regardless of what motivated it. Someone died that should not have been killed. But when I saw the guy just kind of doing that casually, I thought, like, well, this is what I mean by spiritual warfare, because, and I'm not going to say he was possessed, but the spirit of evil took over his heart and his mind. Because who on this planet do you know? Do you know anybody in your life that could do that to someone else? Do you know anybody? I sure don't. I hope I never do. So what was different about that guy? What was different about those other cops that were just standing there? Yeah, I know there are good cops, but that would have been a picture perfect time for a good cop to step in. It just makes me sick, man. I gotta try to keep it together because it's just so it's heart wrenching, man. It's heart wrenching, and then everything that followed it just bothers me. It's disgusting. It's like the worst feeling. How you can watch someone die underneath you, and you're the reason that they're dying. You're taking a child of God away, right? And all the people cashing in, it's not just the looters and the rioters, it's the politicians. They're happy. The media, they love it. They love it. We know that they love it. This is what they needed. They needed this. They feast on it because it's a great opportunity to drum up tension, to make everyone angry, to have us at each other's throats, and to further escalate the clash. And you see it's happening. It gives them more coverage, more clicks. You see all these live streams. You can look now. They're happening in Phoenix. It's happening in Denver, my hometown. It's happening in LA. I saw one in Louisville. They're starting to happen nationwide. And it's just dangerous territory. Yeah, somebody said the police officers are wrong. You don't know what they were thinking. Yeah, we don't know what they were thinking. But what would it take for something like that to happen? And the fact that the government, man, the government, that's what it is. The government is killing US citizens. And I don't know why anybody would pretend for 1 second that Black people have a monopoly on getting killed by the government. We don't. And why would anyone want to fight that and say, yes, we do? No. Humans kill humans, regardless on if they're wearing a badge or not. And we can't pretend like it's just Black people getting killed by the police. It's people killing Black people, whether they're other Black people or people in law enforcement. In other words, it's just good and evil. It's just right and wrong. We have to break it down to dig it up from the root and identify the root cause, the root problem. It is the darkness in people's hearts. It's spiritual warfare. But so many of us are trapped in this matrix. It is a matrix of control. People are so obsessed with this race. I've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, which, like I said, coincidentally, now that I'm starting to really talk about what this is, what all of this is spiritual warfare. And this is the enemy, the spirit of the Antichrist. The enemy is moving within people. Now that I'm talking about it, they shut down my streams. You guys see that? I used to live stream all the time from my phone. Now they shut me down every time Facebook does that. Now that more information is coming out, now that there's more awakening, people are starting to open their eyes. People are starting to pay attention. Hong Kong is starting to protest again. This is a global shift. Now you're starting to see them crack down. They're really Twitter, fact checking, Facebook, fact checking, YouTube, deleting videos. It's because the truth is getting out there. People are starting to see, people are really starting to examine the way that they viewed the world before. And now they're getting a different perspective, one that provides more clarity and makes more sense. The government, the idea of a governing body, some kind of entity that governs your life, that runs contrary to the laws of nature. So that's why I say we're at a fork in the road. We are at a pivotal point. We can either go the full route where we just let government grow, or we could pretend like we're going back to normal, but in reality, what we should do is go the other direction. Shrink the government, shrink the oversight, reform criminal justice, reform the police department. There could be big changes if people would just wake up and unplug. Like I said, 99.99% of the world's problems can be linked to someone who is in power and made the wrong choice and paid virtually no price for it. Look at what just happened with the coronavirus. We were forced to shut down the greatest economy the world has ever seen because of like 3 unelected health bureaucrats. That's it. People who we did not vote for, people who do not have our best interests in mind, people who have been in their profession for a very long time, people who know they're not smarter than you, but they're telling you, here's what you need to do. You need to wear a mask. Just kidding. No, you don't. It spreads on surfaces very easily. No, just kidding. It doesn't. Right? So think about how much power that is for someone who you didn't vote for to say, we need to shut down everything. This is dangerous. They're literally governing your life experience, your short time, the blink of an eye that you're in this world. Tomorrow's not promised. So everybody's trying to live their best life. And you just had it railroaded by someone who doesn't give a damn about you, doesn't even know you exist. How can someone have that much power over so many people? Because clearly we outnumber all the people that are telling us what to do. And no, I'm not calling for some like insurrection or anything like that. I'm just saying, when are people going to recognize who the real enemy is, who the real problem is? Where do you think wars come from? Famine. That's from government. Like I said, there's the laws of nature, which I'm governed by, God's law. Right? I mean, I obviously still have to follow the rules of the system that I was born into, but I'm using my platform to get a message out of liberation because you were born free. Freedom is your birthright. But then you were put into a system where they want to essentially make you more dependent. They want you to be a lifelong cradle to grave dependent. They don't want you to discover your true potential. So, of course, they would force close all these businesses, screw up everyone's life. Is anyone else picking this up? Like, how is Dr. Fauci, who's not the president, for as much as people say, oh, I don't like Trump, Dr. Fauci's the one that closed down the economy with his opinion. Come to find out, he was wrong. He was wrong. The WHO, they were wrong. So why would we ever trust them again? Why? I could continue. I know this is titled Minneapolis. I could go so long just down on that. But if you think about what's happening in Minneapolis and what's happening in so many other places, it started with someone from the government. It did. All the problems, if you just had to like find where this absolutely started, every single thing is from the government. The taxation, the theft, right? All the things that you stress about on a day-to-day basis, you could probably improve tenfold if there wasn't some red tape, regulation, or law in your way. Yeah, I forgot about the other guy, Bill Gates. Yeah. Forgot about that. I try to block him out of my mind as much as possible. Because right now, while people are divided over these riots, not even thinking about George Floyd, they're not thinking about that right now. What about the Trace Act? What about the fact that they want a vaccine by the end of the year? What about the fact that they don't talk about having a healthy immune system to fight off viruses? Why don't they tell you about the vitamin C that you can get from an orange or a bell pepper? Why don't they tell you to take zinc? Why do they say we need a vaccine? Even the president. Why are we even talking about vaccines? Again, contrary to the laws of nature. Spiritual warfare. What does the enemy want to do? Steal, kill, and destroy. Who kills more people than the government? Whether you're talking the communist government, the fascist government, the United States government, the military industrial complex, who's doing it? Government. Destroying, stealing, taking your money, taxpayer money, extortion, shakedowns of businesses. So they're forcing you into your house, forcing your business closed, destroying the economy, and then they slap you with a fine for going to get fresh air at the beach, going for walks in the park, playing frisbee with your kids. That's extortion. Taking your money, locking you in cages. That's what I mean. This is the stuff I'm talking about. This is where I am in 2020. And I know that there's other people out there because you guys email me. You say, like, Mike, you're on point. You're on point. I've been talking to God a lot. I've been praying. I've been asking, like, what direction should I go in 2020? Because I just kind of felt like, you know, I still support the president. It's fun. I like going to rallies. Remember, I got hired for Right Side Broadcasting Network. Remember, I'm supposed to be a political correspondent. I'm supposed to be in some city somewhere having fun, going to a Trump rally. Remember those days? Remember how fun that was? Patriots lined up, everybody with smiles on their faces. Remember that? Remember when people were smiling and happy and lined up and waving? Everything was good. Those days seem like it seems like it's been a year. That's how long it's been. Can you even remember the last time Trump held a rally? What's his campaign slogan? Keep America great. How can that be a campaign slogan right now? How keep America great? Keep America great. This is where America is right now. We could go to make America great again. But I just felt like there needed to be something else that I said. There needed to be more substance, because anybody can be a Trump cheerleader. There's millions of them. They just cheer him no matter what. I get invited to flag waves all the time, all throughout the lockdown. People are like, we're going to go wave Trump flags at the street corner. I'm like, okay, like there's not much enthusiasm right now in the country. The general vibe is different. We're not bragging about the lowest unemployment rates and stock market records and all that stuff. We're not even talking about that anymore. Right now, we're trying to save a republic. That's what we're trying to do right now. And it's on the ropes. We just had the greatest redistribution of wealth I've ever seen in my life, as companies like Target, Amazon, Walmart had record sales in Q1, record sales. But the mom and pop business on the corner, if they're still in business, they had record losses. And in Minneapolis, the businesses that survived or managed to survive or operating so close to the margins that they could fail if they have even 2 to 3 days of poor sales after reopening. Well, if they didn't get destroyed, then what? How are they going to make it? Because of the redistribution of wealth. And this came again from Dr. Fauci's opinion, and then Congress passing the massive spending bill, printing money, The irony of this, the irony. Okay, so I know I'm kind of all over the place, guys. I can't help it. I can't help it. There's just so much running through my mind right now, so I'm just gonna spitball. Okay, sorry. Let's talk about the irony of why George Floyd was arrested in the first place. Okay, get this. And we don't know that this is true, by the way, and we're never going to hear his side of the story, obviously. But apparently, the police were called to that restaurant because of forgery, right? Apparently, he had a counterfeit $20 bill that he was trying to buy something with. I don't know if it was food or what. We don't know if that's true. Number one, we don't know if he knew it was a counterfeit bill. We don't know. There's so many unknowns there. But the very fact that the government would come and investigate a citizen for holding a piece of fake money when our Congress just printed a bunch of money from thin air. Fake money. See, that's why I say, guys, they put it right in your face. Do we need to talk about what's on the dollar? The all-seeing eye, they put it right in your face. So the irony that this man lost his life for carrying fake money, potentially fake money, by the government who is the king of fake money, the kings and queens of fake money. Just saying. It's interesting when you think about it like that, right? Think about it. His life is over. Well, he's with the Lord now. To be absent in the body is to be present with the Lord. But he was taken from this earth by thugs who work for the government that is contrary and directly opposed to God's law, to nature's law. The same government that's taking directives on health policy from a rich billionaire eugenicist who wants to inject everyone with poison and whatever else, instead of promoting a healthy immune system that God gave us. Government, God. Opposite, spiritual warfare. It's really simple when you think about it. It's simple. So we can ditch all these terms, racist, hate crime, sexist. It's just right or wrong, good or evil. Because all of those terms have been socially constructed by man. Man wants to be God. Man wants to play God so bad. That's why they think they're smart enough to tell you how to live your life. They want to be God. That's why they say we're going to inject you with vaccines. We're going to do this. We're going to control the climate. Men can have babies. Let's mess around with what else? What is the thing? Stem cell research, right? And now artificial intelligence, brain stems, and transhumanism. That's coming from one side. That's why I say they use these other terms so that we fight each other instead of looking at them, because we outnumber them. We always will. What are you guys saying in here? Costco too, liquor stores as well. Oh, you guys are talking about the businesses being closed. I was on a roll there. I need some more water here. I'm just saying, I know some people will tune it out because that's what happens if you talk about God and Jesus and stuff like that, talk about the Lord. Some people will automatically tune it out, and that's fine. That's fair. But I see things more clearly now than ever before, and I won't go back. Once you see something, you're not going to unsee it. So while we're calling things racist and stuff, we're talking about what we're really talking about is hatred. And hate is a very low vibration, negative energy. Love, on the other hand, is a powerful force. So why does the news, the imagery, the books, the movies, the music, all of the stuff they put in front of us for us to consume, why does it breed hatred and anger. Do you ever feel good after you watch the news? For those of you that still watch, and yeah, I do still watch, but I watch through a different lens. But you don't feel good after doing that. You should actually be meditating, going out in nature, which they don't want you to do, coincidentally. I'm just saying, there's so much information that I've uncovered that I can see more clearly now. And I'm like, oh, they're saying racist. They're saying, oh, you're being hunted down every day. Okay. So they, because they want it so bad, they're so desperate, it becomes obvious, right? It becomes really, really obvious what they want to do. So now that we know that, now that there's more people that know that, we can see right through it. We can almost predict it. You could predict as soon as you saw that video, you knew exactly where they were going with it. You didn't even have to turn on the news to know what they were going to say, what they were going to call it, and ultimately what was going to happen. Now, it remains to be seen if there will actually be justice served. Because like I said earlier today, we're seeking justice in an unjust world. And a lot of people, unfortunately, because this is a realm of spiritual wickedness, they will not see justice. Think about some of the people who walk free, and they are so deserving to be at least in a prison cell. I won't say what else, but they should be at least in a prison cell. Former presidents, politicians, bankers, you name it, but they're not. In fact, they're probably enjoying some of the most freedom they've ever had. Big fat paydays while you don't know how you're going to pay your rent next. So they might escape justice, but they will not escape judgment. Judgment will come. I guess I should transition back to the title of this, because I titled it Minneapolis. See, I'm always wary of titling it one thing, because then it's too narrow. And if people are thinking, oh, he's talking about the riots, and then they get in, I'm talking about like God and all this other stuff, then they're like, wait, what? Okay, so let me try to stay on topic. Okay, so title Minneapolis. What do I think about the riots in Minneapolis? I think the riots in Minneapolis are absolutely insane. I think that there are people who are benefiting from this, and it's definitely not those rioters. You know, there are people who are happy about this, though they can't show you that they're happy because they're on TV. They have to look like they're very concerned. They might even have to shed some crocodile tears. But the rioters are useful idiots. They just are. They just are. Destroying their own communities. Destroying, like they care about minorities, right? Oh my gosh, we love Black people, but we're going to go and loot their business and take money off of the table of their kids. Yeah, Target's a big corporation. It'll bounce back. I actually used to work for Target, so I feel a certain type of way about what's going on over there. I know a lot of people that work at Target, but Target's going to be fine. Target will be fine. Target will recover. The problem is that Target is going to be closed for who knows how long. Well, I've been to that Target several times. There's a lot of minorities that work in there. So where's their next paycheck coming from? So you're so outraged that you go and destroy a Target, destroy a Cub Foods, destroy everything in sight. It was like a tornado going down Lake Street. I bet you if you flew over in a helicopter with no context and you just surveyed the damage from an aerial shot, you would think like, damn, that tornado just went like in a straight line, because there's basically no discernible difference in the damage caused. But lives have been destroyed and people have been put at significant disadvantage. Maybe they just got a chance to come back to work, and now you went and torched their car so they can't drive home, and You burned down their place of work, and they're Black. And oh, by the way, half of 99.99% of the people whose businesses you destroyed agree with you about this case. We all agree. We're all on the same page. The cop murdered him. He needs to be in jail, and we're waiting for an arrest. So it just blows my mind that somebody could decide, I think this is a good time for me to go break into that jewelry store. Now I got all these watches. Now I got an Xbox. Now I got some video games. Now I got a flat screen TV, even though I caught the bus here. Now I'm going to go home on the bus with a big TV that I just stole. I don't know how you can sleep, look yourself in the mirror after doing that. I just don't know. What possesses someone to do this? What comes over you to make you do this? And no, let's stop, because I've heard the excuses. I heard the terrible media running defense for these rioters and saying there's a lot of outrage and you really see it as they torch an AutoZone. No, sorry. Because there are millions upon millions of people who are just as outraged, but they didn't go tear up their neighborhood. So what's your excuse? Why did you do it? Something came over you. And they burned down a low-income housing project. I guess it was under construction. I mean, there's just been so much damage. I can't even keep up. I just don't even know. It just breaks my heart because I lived there for so long and I had such great experiences there. I have so many friends in the Twin Cities, and it makes me sad, man. It's just because I know that city is nothing like that. Nothing like that. That is not even close to an accurate representation of the people of that city. Now, the law enforcement, that's a whole nother ball of wax. So I understand the festering frustration as you had the Philando Castile shooting just 3 years ago. That was the last one I was there. That was the matter of fact, that was the last police shooting that I saw before I actually really started looking into all the cases and really snapped out of it and woke up. And that Philando Castile shooting happened like a day or two after the Alton Sterling shooting. And then the Jamar Clark shooting happened. I think that might have been before Philando. I can't even remember. I can't remember. But there were so many shootings in that city, so much police brutality, aggressive use of force in that city that it just built. There's a lot of pent up anger there. It's rearing its ugly head now. And no, it's not justified. The outrage is justified, but the violence, the looting, the vandalism is not. It's just not. It's just not, especially when you consider that it's pretty much a scorched earth solution. You're like, let's just burn it all down. I'll burn my own house down tonight. I'm so angry. That's basically like, I'm so mad at what happened that I'm going to burn my own house down. Imagine thinking that. There's no logic. No logic. And yes, I do want to put my tinfoil hat on and say, because I spent enough time in Minneapolis, and I actually noticed this back in October, if you guys recall, when Trump had a rally in Minneapolis. Do you remember that? Because I do. I was there. I didn't go to the rally, but I happened to be in Minneapolis that weekend or that week. Trump held a rally. And I remember I'm like, oh man, this is going to be crazy because it's a leftist city. And I saw some of the craziest protesters that I'd never seen in the streets. I mean, they could have been there all along, but just hiding out, waiting for Trump to arrive. But it almost felt like they weren't from the Twin Cities because they interviewed some of those protesters. I didn't hear that thick northern Minnesota accent. I didn't hear any of that. So it just made me wonder, like, there was a lot of violence that day. A lot of Trump supporters attacked. It was very violent. And this has George Soros written all over it. I'm just saying, obviously I can't prove it, but whenever you get Black Lives Matter and Antifa, you know, there's destruction in their wake. Whatever they touch gets destroyed. So I'm just saying, he's an opportunist like that. We know that he funds Black Lives Matter. Antifa has so many chapters, who knows? But I would not be surprised if we find out that it was George behind this. So yeah, that's what I think about the looting. In general, the looting it's disgusting. And it makes the people look so dumb. Those people don't give a damn about George Floyd. They don't even, you could show them a picture of him right now. They wouldn't even know who he was. And he would have probably condemned them from what people who knew him said. They said he was not like that at all. I saw a video of him talking about how the youth have gone wrong in this world. So I almost think like if he were still around, if he could actually give a message to the world right now, or at least to the people in that city, he would be like, what are y'all doing destroying this city that we all live in and enjoy? I'm just saying, guys. I'm just saying. Well, let me see what's trending on Twitter. And if there's nothing else that's popped up, if there's no breaking news of an arrest, I guess I'll sign out and go to bed. It's been almost about an hour, right? But just ask yourself, with everything that's going on, with the riots, with the protests, with the racial tension, with the civil unrest, the violence, who benefits the most from that? Because just get ready, guys. It's only May 29th. They've got more of this to traffic in. It's only going to get worse as we move towards the election. It's going to get worse. At this point, nothing could happen in 2020 that would shock me. Nothing. So yeah, guys, I got to sign out. I really do. I could talk for hours and hours and hours, but I might actually upload this on YouTube because this was fire tonight. This was good. This was one of my best by far live streams. I didn't fumble over my words. My thoughts were clear. I think I just generally do better with Facebook live streams. I don't know why. I still haven't figured it out. But what's happening right now is so much deeper than the cops or black and white. It's the people versus the state. And no, you don't have to be some religious, hardcore, Bible thumping Christian to recognize that there's good and evil in the world. And that monster, that cop that took that man's life, carried out an act of evil in spiritual warfare. That's intensifying. That's all I got to say, guys. God bless every single one of you that has supported me from the start of this page. God bless everybody that has donated, everybody that sends emails, personal messages, sending things to my P.O. box. Thank all of you. You guys keep this page going. This isn't just my page. It's your page. We're in this together. We're in this together. So thanks to all of you. Let's stay strong. Let's stay positive. Remember, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but it's spiritual wickedness and evil in high places. I don't have that memorized, but you get what I'm saying. God bless you all. You guys have a good night and pray for the city of Minneapolis.